Welcome to Pragmatic Talk, and as we had promised you earlier, we had told you that we shall be continuing the religious talk show that we were talking about prayer and the Christian behaviors, if they are fitting into the needs of the modern human right now, especially here in Africa. We are continuing, and with me is none other than the professor, Mr. JC. You're very welcome on the show.
We thank you for coming to watch us again. Today we're back and we're going to delve deep down on religions and science and consciousness so that we understand who is a human being and how should a human being really, invoke God.
Whether Christianity is doing its best to make sure that the current African who's using it so much is well guided, not allowing remorsefulness in prayer.
There is one thing which they have not managed to do perfectly, to grow with knowledge as knowledge changes on the marketplace.
I have like 5,000 to give to a charitable cause would be much better than just mentioning it and leaving it to God.
The first book to be printed was the Bible. Every book written has emerged from it.
We've been shaped to live in a certain way, and most of us have never reflected back and said, no, we can change and become who we want to be.
The mind doesn't know the people you know and the people you know about. Difference between this girl you watch on TV you admire than your wife.
Delving deep into the idea of forming our own identity and paradigm. So we want to examine how our thoughts and beliefs can reflect in our daily lives and how we can break free from the cycle of poverty by consciously commanding the universe to replicate the life we want to live. We also want to talk about the process of consciously creating success by intentionally subduing our minds to create the life we want. I also want to know whether Christianity is doing its best to make sure that the current African who's using it so much is well guided towards not allowing remorsefulness in prayer, not allowing the negativity in time of prayer. So I would like to know from your perspective, those two elements, how you understand them.
Religions have done wonderful works, but there is one thing which they have not managed to do perfectly. They have kept the same message that was meant for people since enlightenment. We know that the Bible was printed 500 years ago. The first book they ever got exposed to was the Bible. The Gutenberg Bible. And of course it has shaped every kind of knowledge that human beings have managed to understand, from rights to the concepts like democracy. All those have emerged from the Bible, the human rights. We have come to the terms whereby the environment, the technologies have changed. So the religious entities should upgrade to be able to communicate the message that God left us in the same concept. It's not that the Bible is not written the way. The Bible is so written in that way that all books that we know have emerged, because it was the first book to be printed was the Bible. It's elastic enough to be able to accommodate any kind of ideology that can be able to emerge.
Would you say that presently people are remorseful in their time of prayer, diverging from the intention of the real prayer, the element of having negative aspects when praying? What would you advise that a Christian should actually do while in the moment of prayer, where we know that moment is good in programming a human mind?
When God created man, and then the devil came and lied to a man and told them, eat these fruits, you will become as God. By the way, the devil wasn't lying. So in other words, the snake wasn't really lying to them that they would become like God. It's only that they the way they become more like God was that now they got to know evil and good. You understand? But the first place they knew what is right, they did not know what is wrong. You understand? But God already knew what was right and what was wrong, because we know very well that we can go deep about that another day. When a man got exposed to the evil knowledge, they did not know how to handle evil knowledge. You understand? So that corrupted their consciousness in a way that now they were carrying two burdens. One is weighing this side, another is weighing this side. They don't know how to handle that. That's why God had prohibited them from knowing the evil, because He knew that it wasn't an easy thing to handle. So now, when a human being got exposed to evil, they got so much bent to evil, because evil somehow is so easy to be bent to. Of course, it's easy to be fearful. The prayer was corrupted by that evil. But now we need to learn a way that we as a human being, we need now to shape our prayer to this side of God.
The aspect of remorsefulness, where most Christians are too remorseful than focusing on what actually needs to be built. Explain it. How would you put it in your own language of Christianity and prayer, and describe it for a Christian out there to see how to really change that aspect?
The remorsefulness is very bad ideology, because most people they have not shifted to the Old Testament, to the New Testament. The remorsefulness comes, it even talked about the Bible, whereby Paul says that when this message of Moses is preached, until today, that's what he says, until today, when this message of the law is preached, there is a veil on the face of people. They are not seeing clearly what is really the righteousness of God, by people trying to follow so much on the evil. You understand? For example, a human being or human consciousness doesn't know what to do if it doesn't know what to do. What I'm trying to say, you can't say, if you tell a man do not steal, a human doesn't know what it means to not steal unless they first know what to steal is. You understand?
So they must go and do it.
They are trying to teach people the laws of Moses instead of teaching the laws of the law of faith. You understand? Which we shall expand a bit more later. So when you're trying to tell people, oh, do not steal, do not do this, do not do this, the mind of man doesn't know what it means. Do not do if it doesn't know to do that. You understand? So in other words, the same thing when you tell a kid, oh, do not touch on the fire. They don't know what you mean. What do you mean do not touch on the fire if I don't know what to mean to do what? To touch the fire. And once they touch the fire, at least they run from that. But with a human being, something that doesn't bring the same result immediately, if say, like for example, do not fornicate, do you know what it means to not do that if after I have done it? You understand? Which means teaching people to not do things is a wrong ideology. You understand? Because of course they will keep doing that which you have taught them to not to do. I'm not saying it's right to do that, but it's really the instinct behind that is really bad, to a way now it affects someone's behavior, it affects someone's belief system, it affects someone's ideology, and then even how they operate, then they start becoming remorseful.
Anything you tell yourself in your sacred time, which is more like meditation, more like prayer, is what actually transpires in your daily life. For example, if I go every evening and I kneel down, like most of my brothers do, and say, God forgive me, today I saw this lady and I think I fornicated in spirit. God forgive me, I wanted to steal the other car. So in that time, you're just basically trying to program your godly self. It is very imperative that whenever we are into that time of prayer, you command good things to yourself. For example, you say, I am an honest person, dedicated to what I do, and I'm authentic. If you repeat it to yourself, then the results are going to be as such. So basically, as you pray, as you do whatever it is that you call self-programming, it is very important to focus on the positives, and that way we can break the norm. People who have not programmed their head to stay in the present, and then also program the future, and then probably do an affirmation on a daily basis to show that yes, whatever change we are trying to create into our lives is going in a positive direction. What else would you like to add on that?
In most cases, even meditation itself is not possible unless someone first discover who they are. Because it's like you can tell, let's imagine you tell a goat to behave like a sheep. It doesn't matter how much you try to force it to never happen. If you fry the chicken and you put all the spices possible and then bring them to a sheep, look at them at rubbish, because it's not built to do that. You understand? Their digestive system, which now in this concept we shall come back to what we call belief system, then it's not built to accommodate that. So now a human being should first design their identity through understand, like through, of course, as you spoke about meditation, you think about who you exactly are, like, which now is about consciousness. Of course, after this we want to talk about the consciousness of being. Now, how does it affect the human behavior? Now, a human being, when they understand themselves, they know their identity, is now who this person they are now influences the behavior, because the behavior doesn't change the identity. It's the identity that changes the behavior. You understand? In other words, if a human being doesn't want to get away from being remorseful, they need to first understand that they are not sinner, as you were saying. They are not sinners. They are the righteousness of God. Okay, you are this kind of person you want to be. You first become that. You believe that. You are convinced that. After that, you are convinced. You meditate about that. You think about that. You start training yourself how to speak like that kind of person you have become. Once you believe that you're a mountain mover, what follows is you need to shape your action to follow your belief. How would you shape your action to follow your belief like that? In other words, you can get a spade. Go get what you can get. If it's a spade, go and start moving a spade of soil. You understand? You know you will move the mountain. Just believe I'm moving the mountain. You may look at that small kind of action, but it's what we call acts of faith. If you have an act of faith of being this kind of person, not to be what is righteousness, where it's any kind of dream you have in your mind whatsoever. You now, after training yourself to understand your identity and then believing that, you now train yourself to think like that, then act like that, and now acting like that is acting in a way that you don't neglect.
We're trying to show you that there is a process, and that process begins in your head. And once it is in your head, you command your feelings, and then you ask God to implement whatever it is that you're trying to work on at that very aspect of time. And then things happen. So we've talked about remorsefulness, finding people that whenever they are into their prayer moment, they are all meandering around trying to tell God that I sinned here, I sinned that. That is not good, as confirmed by the professor with me here on the show.
Confirmed by the Bible.
By the Bible also, as he says. You remember when in COVID times people were dying because of different diseases, but attributing them to COVID because of the negativity and then the thought that was all in their head. So how do Christians fight negativity?
It even has to do with because where you see people, for example, failing even at school, where you see people you admire, say this person has so powerful mind, they know a lot of things, or they are so good at mathematics. Actually, I would say we are almost having the same abilities. This thing that people try to measure what we call intellectual coefficient, and me, I would like to say, it matters how much one person is interested. Let's call it interest coefficient. So the much more you are interested in understanding this, the much more you are interested, how would you increase your focus in a way you know how to focus on yourself? And after you have known how to focus on yourself, you know now how to fetch your behavior, your attitude from inside of that kind of person you are, whether it is joy, whether it is faith, you have to fetch it from inside. There are simple things you start with. People may think this is not related, but it is ultimately related. One thing, you need to know how you eat. But number one actually should be how you sleep. You should sleep enough time, because this will help you manage stress. You know how to manage stress when you really have enough glucose in your body, which comes much of the time from the sleep. And that's why actually babies, you know why babies always sleep so much time? It's because they need much more glucose than any other human being. So with that, because of the growth they need to grow the body, the brain needs too much energy to grow them, to do what. So that's why they have to sleep almost all the time, and it doesn't affect them, because that's the number one source of what? Of glucose. So the second one should be exercise. Do enough exercise, shape your body. You can see martial art master. So now, that is second thing you need to improve on your focus. Once you increase you increase the exercise, you have the third one. You need to now have fruitful discussion like this one. You understand? There is this concept they call the Dunbar's number. The Dunbar's number is the spots or in the brain, how in the conscious of a human being at least has 150 people in the mind that it keeps closer than any other human beings. So at the forefront, at the very spot of your consciousness, you at least have to remember 150 individuals related to it. But the problem with that, you understand. So, and that's really a bad thing that social media has brought, whereby this 150, which is Dunbar number, that the mind has to occupy with the people who are so close to you, is occupied by abstract people you will never have. For example, you may say you love, for example, Bobby Wine, you understand, but yes, he might love you, but he doesn't have chance to tell that to you, to your face. He doesn't have chance to smile back to you, but you don't know how much it does to you when you have a fruitful conversation with people you laugh with, and they also laugh back to you. That also has an impact on how people manage stress. That's why when social media increased, like in the COVID time, when people were so much on social media, you had a lot of people talking about mental illness. People started having illness of the mind. You don't eat because you're hungry. You need to know how to manage your diet. Eat correctly. And finally, another one is powerful, is thinking about yourself, which is like, it starts by meditation. The consciousness gives you the ability to always know where you are, what you are doing, and at the same time, while the experience is taking, even while you sleep, you know where you are. You understand? And that helps you to manage to regulate your behavior, because your behavior emulates from the identity you are thinking about. You understand? So once you are functioning from this kind of person you think you are, and that won't be possible, by the way, if you are not consciously always remembering that person while you are doing what you are doing. Find sometimes he's standing somewhere, you ask them, what are you doing here? They don't know. Their mind just moves them, and they know how they reached there. You understand? That's the same thing with behavior. You find they are leading things which they don't even love, but their mind just push them. They are pushed like the wind, how mind wanders in them. They sometimes feel pain, they don't know where it has come from. They are annoyed, they don't know what they are annoyed, because their mind can just wander anyhow. You understand? And that will just get away once someone knows how to manage the consciousness. How do you know what you are? How do you keep up with your identity? And how does your thought keep up with your identity? And how do your behaviors keep up with your identity? That's consciousness.
Most of us have been described by what we call the past. The past, where your parents taught you this is how you should behave, this is what you should be, this is what community needs, this is how a successful person behaves, this is how a lunatic is determined, or a patho, like a liar is. So all these aspects and the past traumas have really shaped who we are. And also the school, religion. So we are always trying to fight the two battles. You want to be somebody, but that somebody is not yet determined. And we are trying to say that a crucial part of determining who you want to be, your 2.0 version, or somebody better than who you are, and you would like to be that very person and feel free and live a life that is free of stress, is much and well determined by the mental status, by what you feed into your head. Negative pictures, you remove them. You keep with the positives. the positive affirmations about yourself. And this is very key, very important to do, especially when you're in your time of prayer. So whenever you're in your time of prayer, it is very imperative that you look out for what you insert into your mind. Some people's prayers have never changed from January to December. They are always repeating the same things. They can, for a good example, I don't want to be specific and name names, but I want to basically talk about somebody I know, very close to me, and every night he says, God, help the needy and the widows get food. It wouldn't be a bad thing, but what strategies are you putting up to make sure that the needy are getting food and the widows are getting the help they need? So programming yourself to say, okay, I will make sure that by the end of the month I have like 5,000 to give to a charitable cause or anything would be much better than just mentioning it and leaving it to God, isn't it? So basically the programming of a human mind, or the God within us and the God that wants us to be co-creators, needs us to be well programmed and formatted in order to handle our day-to-day challenges.
Even the plants that God created, they started appearing after so many years. We don't know how many, but they appeared after many years. Maybe to use the very close of example is when Jesus cursed a tree. He said he cursed a tree that had failed to give him fruit, the parable. But it didn't dry immediately. But he believed, he knew very well that it's a done case. It doesn't matter whether it is showing this in the spiritual world has happened. So with that consciousness of knowing how God operates, you're not deceived with the things you see on the surface. You don't consider what you hear, what even your body is telling you. You just know once you declare something, all that follows is being grateful, because you're conscious, you're like a God kind person. Because when God declares something, he knows it has happened. Well, it's important having that kind of consciousness while you pray, because you know what you are praying. Next time you won't have to pray for it. All you have to do is to believe that, thank you, God, that you gave me this. I thank you because this has happened. People have been promoting consciousness more than we conscious of the status of God. They like to say that I'm grateful for this, I'm grateful for this. But it's important not only to be grateful for something, you need to be grateful to someone for something. It is very, very important, because you have a point of reference. You have someone you hold in your mind to fulfill that which, because there is someone who is higher than you, whom you know very well, who created you, who is like you, by the way, because they say that we are gods. He say, well, that's what's mentioned in Psalms. So in other words, it's very important one pray with that conscious, because if you know that now with God, that remorse and all those stories we talked about will not come to your mind. Even when you are moving, you are conscious of that. Even when you are sleeping, you sleep like him. You are conscious of that. So it's very important that a human being train themselves to be conscious in every moment and every second. Not only when you go to pray, that even when you're thinking, you are conscious of that status or that identity of that kind of person you are.
In conclusion, it is time to break free from mental slavery and take control of our lives by understanding the principles that the outer world is a reflection of our inner world. We must find the God within ourselves and accept the possibility of failure and defeat. The God within being the fact that you were created to become a co-creator. God is with you, always with you inside your heart, and if you empower that God with the necessary tools of work, then you will see results. We should enjoy each and every day and have a plan for each and every day in our lives. Thank you for joining us. But before we leave, I would like to also push it to JC to give us a conclusive remark about how we should run and change our identity and control our own paradigm.
I want you to never forget how God works so that you should work like God. God operates by faith. He declares things and he believes that those things have happened, and he doesn't change his mind after that because him doesn't operate by the things that he sees. So should you. You don't operate by visible world. You need to know that you need to operate by faith. And faith, according to the Bible, is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I want to repeat this. Is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things that are not seen. Think about that. So in other words, not that it's not seen, that's the evidence that it exists. And that's what you need to keep in your mind to always drive your actions, your speech, your thoughts, and all your body should be driven by that. Thank you very much. We expect you to be faithful and keep with us. We would like to hear your objections, your injunctions. We want to hear what you think. Put down there in the comments and we will make sure we respond. And if there is anything you want us to talk about, feel free.
Thank you who actually participated in the watching of our first episode, and you gave us positive feedback. Even the negative feedback is anticipated, so do not worry. We will take it on and we will try to measure up to what you really want us to talk about. So as we conclude, remember, you're not just a body, the body you are, or the brain. You're a spiritual being. You move way beyond this surrounding shell that you call yourself. You are a spiritual being and you can command whatever you want to happen, and it will happen, but with the right tools. And this show is all about equipping you with the right tools to handle life better. Pragmatic Talk. My name is Larry Mugabe and I'm with Mbisa here.
Keep up. God keep you. Stay safe.